I still don't think there's another VR experience that rivals the sheer spectacle of walking around Night City in Cyberpunk 2077. In the third video I ever posted to this channel, I talked about how mind-melting it was to see it all for the first time, but suffice it to say, a lot has happened since then. The Luke Ross Real VR mod that I used to get this working has seen a couple of dramatic updates over the past few months, ironing out some issues and making it more accessible than ever for people to try out. The last video I did about Cyberpunk honestly changed this channel forever. While I typically make an effort to respond to every comment I get, that one got away from me, being a small channel just getting started. So today, as if I needed another excuse to jump back in, I wanted to try answering a lot of the most common questions I got about Cyberpunk VR while showing off some gameplay from the newest version of the mod.
Now for some fun.
Let's kick things off with the question I get asked the most, by far. Will my PC be able to run this? This is kind of an impossible question to answer for each person individually, and depends on a few factors. In most cases, if you have a 3000 series NVIDIA card or higher, then yes, I think your PC should be able to run it. How well it runs and how much you're willing to put up with is a different story. I'm going to include all of my PC specs and Cyberpunk settings in the description of the video so you have a benchmark. All of the footage in this video is captured on this very specific setup and settings. Keep in mind that because you are rendering an image for each eye, your overall VR frame rate will be about half of whatever you're getting in flat screen, and frame generation is not available in VR. However, DLSS is now available in the mod, and it's a game changer. I expect it's going to keep getting better and better too. For the most part, with my settings and hardware, I average around 60 to 90 frames per second. I personally prioritize frame rate over raw fidelity, but there's a ton of settings you can tweak between the game and the mod, so mileage may vary and you can find what works best for you. So, how does it look in the headset? I can only speak for myself, but my jaw still hits the floor every time I boot this up. It's obviously not perfect, but I've always thought this was one of, if not the best looking game I've ever seen in VR. All of the gameplay in this video is my real gameplay, but you're seeing this gameplay on a screen, possibly even your phone. And in VR, the screen is strapped inches away from your eyes. Any imperfections at all are blown up to life size in VR. You will absolutely see some visual artifacts, but as of the most recent update, it's been minimized to a point where it either isn't that noticeable anymore or so minor that most people will forget about it after a short time playing. This is a recording from inside the Quest 3. I do want to be clear that this is a single eye perspective run through virtual desktop and highly compressed by the Quest 3 4 recording. When you're actually in the headset, it's significantly sharper and more vibrant, but you get the idea. Can you use ray tracing? Previously, my answer was no. But again, the talented Luke Ross has been at work on this mod. Now, realistically, you're going to need at least a 5090 to get this working in any playable form. But it is making progress, and if you want to jump in just to see it, you can definitely do it. The thumbnail for my original Cyberpunk video said, "The future is here," and I think that really sums up my feelings about this experience as a whole. It's really a glimpse of what we could see in the future and what is becoming possible, but I still think we're a ways out before any of this stuff is going to be standard for VR. I still leave all ray tracing off just because I want as much frame rate as I can get. But this actually brings up another great question that I get pretty frequently. If I was playing this for the first time, would I play it in VR or flat screen? This is coming from someone who's built a channel around VR and rarely plays anything outside of VR. But if I had a nice PC with an OLED monitor, I would play it in flat screen for the first time 100%. While experiencing the game in VR is something really special and gives you a new appreciation for all of the artwork and lighting, the reality is that VR and the technology required to run it just is not there yet. I am a Cyberpunk fan before I am a VR fan. Walking around the neon-soaked streets of Night City with proper HDR and path tracing on is just unreal. Flat screen is, for now at least, the best representation of what the artists at CD Projekt Red intended. On subsequent playthroughs, VR all the way. It's the only way I play it at this point. That's my answer for now, but as the mod keeps getting better and technology keeps pushing forwards, I think that's possibly going to change. Does it have motion controls? The short answer is no. Specifically with the Luke Ross mod, you have to play with a mouse and keyboard or game controller. With the Vorpex mod, there is technically some gesture-based motion controls and the ability to aim down sights, but personally, I just don't think they feel right. It's not a VR motion control in the way that you would expect it to be. If you've played with a mouse and keyboard or game controller your entire life, I still encourage you to try it. I know for myself and many others, it's such an automatic process at this point that you will quickly forget about it because the rest of the world is so immersive. I fully understand that the lack of motion controls is going to be a non-starter for some people. And that might change someday, but the amount of work to make that possible is so immense that I'm not sure we will ever properly get it. And this brings me to the final question, and I think the most important question. Is this just a game window strapped to your face? I think this is an important question to address because it's a common misconception about this experience, probably stemming from the fact that it is a mod for a flat screen game that you have to play with a controller. The answer is yes and no, but it's hard to explain why it doesn't feel like just a game window strapped to your face. You do still have full motion control of your head. You can look anywhere in any direction. The controller really just moves your body around, kind of like tank controls. With the dual eye rendering active, you get the depth or 3D-like effect that you would get from any other dedicated VR title. You get a real sense of the scale and world presence that you just don't get from 2D experiences, even if they're strapped to your face. It completely changes the way that you engage with characters. You can feel their presence when they lean in to tell you things. You also get this feeling of just how small you are when you have to bend your neck to look up at these tall buildings. And even things like sandstorms just feel thick as you see the environment disappear through the dust. It completely changes the way that this game and world feels in a way that you can only understand if you've experienced it for yourself. So that's why I want to hear from you guys now. Load up the comments with your experiences in Cyberpunk VR. I also really want to hear from anybody that found this channel because of my original Cyberpunk video that has tried it for the first time since seeing that video. I want to know what you thought. As always, if you've made it this far, maybe consider subscribing if you aren't already and hitting that like button to support the channel. It really means a lot. Thanks again, and I'll see you in the next one.